What is up, my dudes? Hope you're all doing alright. I'm as well as can be expected. So, anyway, straight to it. Recently I watched this drama. For those of you who are not quite aware at this point, which only 10 of you watch these videos, so odds are all 10 of you already know this, but I've recently been studying Korean, and one of the ways that they suggest practicing your auditory learning is to watch, media in the language you're learning. And so I've been watching a good number of K-dramas. I think since January I've watched maybe 15 of them, because where am I gonna go? What else am I gonna do? So recently I watched one which I think is not older, but not exactly brand new. It's Prison Playbook. It came out I think in 2017. The premise of the story, which, trigger warning, it's in prison, so crimes are committed. Anyway, so the primary protagonist is an up-and-coming baseball player who ends up being sentenced to a year in prison because he took actions to defend his younger sister, who was the victim of a crime. And in doing so, is perceived to have gone too far within the legal system and is sentenced to that year in prison. And I think this is considered a dark comedy, I guess. There are funny parts and characters who I believe are intended to be perceived as funny. Anyway, basically the whole series follows his year in jail. Oh, spoilers, by the way. Spoilers. Anyway, series follows his year in jail and, the relationships he forms with, his cellmates and, the guards and the warden and, all of that. And for the most part, ends on a pretty lighthearted note. I'd say about 70% of the people in his cell you see get, 70 is weird since there's only maybe 7 total people, but whatever. You see most of them end up getting, if not an actual happy ending, a path to a happy ending. And that kind of bothered me, because really the one character who just didn't have anything good happen for him, I'm going to get that sentence out at some point, there's only one character who really didn't get a happy ending, and it's just so happens to have been the gay, drug-addicted character. And I'm really bothered by that, because as we all know, addiction is a disease. It is a disease that runs in my family. And so I have a vested interest in seeing the addicts be okay. And then the fact that it was the one gay character, usually in prison shows, they at least will show even if there's a gay character amongst your main cast, that they're not the only one. They'll show in the background, you'll see, someone who their hair is a little bit additionally coiffed, or, surprisingly enough, in prison, their skin is pristine because they have found a way to work that system and, pretty themselves up. And so, with the show at first, I was actually really pleased with it, because it seemed like they weren't going to make his gayness the butt of the joke. And really, for the most part, his cellmates didn't have a problem when they found out that he was gay. Like, he wasn't a stereotype. He wasn't, you know, mincing about, you know, wearing, wearing, eyeliner and pink nail polish. He was just a guy who happened to be gay. And I was really happy about that, because oftentimes, especially I find in societies that themselves at their core perceive themselves to be more conservative, when they have portrayals of gay characters, they're often super, it's basically like Divine and RuPaul at a drag. There's your gay character. Like, make a dude act as feminine as they can. Cool. That way you know that person's gay. And so I was really pleased that they didn't do that with this character. He was just a dude who, like everyone else, had committed a crime within the legal system and was doing his time. And I was actually really pleased that, he was a character of intelligence and insight. Like, oftentimes he was the one who, other than our main protagonist, who had the best read on everyone in the room. And, like, I was happy about that. Like, they gave him dimension. And, like, one thing that they did that I think I was really happy about was, obviously, he's in prison. He's not able to take the drugs that got him there. But he makes the decision after a time, because for a while he was doing the things that one would do in prison to help curb one's urges and fight any ill effects one might experience when not able to attain those things that your body craves. And, for a while he's doing that. He is liberally using cold medicine as a stopgap for withdrawal. But he finally makes the decision that he's going to quit. And like I said, I'm here for an addict's redemption story. So he does it. He goes cold turkey. And you immediately see him going through withdrawals. And at first it's like, oh no, these symptoms are really bad. Like, he cannot function. He's got cold sweats. He's lethargic. He's listless. Like, is he going to relapse? Is he going to, use again? And it gets to the point where even his cellmates are like, dude, just like, I got you some cold medicine. Like, dude, please take this. Like, you're dying. And he was like, nah, I've made this choice. I'm going to do this. And, like, they let him have some dignity in his struggle. But then, like, the final episode rolls around, and they really just took all of that. Like, you get to your final episode, and, like, all of a sudden, they have to wrap it all up. So they're like, okay, protagonist plot thread. He gets out of prison relatively unscathed. Like, every time he was about to break the rules to, like, extend his sentence, someone else steps in and takes the bullet for him. Cool. His best friend, who has been helping him since day one, gets out shortly after, or shortly before. I think shortly before. Regardless. And, protagonist baseball guy gives him a job, like, so he can go straight. Awesome. Those two, happy. Good for them. The reformed gang leader that was like the cell boss, who has been a model prisoner for 22 years, he gets released early, gets a Christmas pardon. He finds out he has a daughter. They get along swimmingly. While he was in prison, one of his former cellmates was kind of like an adopted son to him, going to the point of calling him Aboji. Going to the point of calling him Aboji, which is, Korean for dad. Like, they were family. To the extent that when this reformed gang member gets out, they live together. Like, the kid got a good job, is working hard so we can get a place so that way when Pops gets out, they can be a family together. So he's got just the world opening up to him. There's an army captain who was framed for murder, who over the course of the season, and in the final episode, it's revealed that the actual killer has been found. He gets a retrial. The actual person has not only been found, but has been charged and convicted. So, like, things are looking up for him. He's going to be getting out 3 minutes after the last episode ends. Hell, there's even a lackey who was in county lockup with the main protagonist and straight up, stabbed the dude in his shoulder in the hopes of ruining his baseball career. And even he gets a redemption arc and is reformed and, basically was the product of the person he was following. So when he was following an asshole, he was an asshole. But then the protagonist forgives him and, welcomes him with open arms, and he becomes a good person. And so he gets his little redemption arc. And then we get the gay addict who serves his term. He, gets out on his release day, walks out front. He didn't want his family to pick him up at the prison because he wanted to kind of, once again, maintain the dignity that the series actually took all this time building up for him, just building and building and building. And so his family there's this restaurant across the street, and he tells them, meet me there, I will come to you when I get out. And so they're there at 5 a.m. at this 24-hour restaurant across the street from prison. And does he go to see his family, including his estranged mother, who has lived for the past year with the guilt and the emotional burden of being the one who actually turned her son in the hopes that he would be able to get help and would be healthy again. So even his estranged mother is there, who hasn't visited him. He has not seen her in all this time. He assumes she's not going to go. And even she's there waiting for him. And so does he go to the restaurant across the street to see his parents and his boyfriend and start his new life? And sure, he'll make mistakes along the way, but does he even get the chance to be happy? No. The writers decide that he, of all of our main characters, which there's ultimately 8, I think, that are at one point or another within this cell, but of all the characters, he's the only one who just isn't given the chance. Instead, as soon as he gets out, they show him. He looks across the street to the restaurant, and then he looks down the street for reasons. And then the next scene that they show him, he's in a car with his dealer, I suppose, who apparently is either a snitch or an undercover cop, because things take a turn. So you have this dramatic framing. They're in the back seat of a nice little SUV or minivan or whatever, and they show the character, the gay drug addict. They show the dealer, and then they show a needle on the armrest between the two front seats, just there, already full, ready for use. And for a moment, it's okay, cool. One last temptation. He's gonna, yes, he made the call. Yes, that, he's there, but, we're gonna get this. We're gonna get him through this. It's gonna be all right. He starts reaching for the door. He opens it, starts to get out. And then doesn't. Closes the door again. He reaches for the needle, uses its contents, and is immediately arrested again. didn't see his family, didn't get to, hug his moms, nothing. And like, given what I discussed in my last video, like this is, I found it to be really disheartening. Because I understand, and I think any viewing audience understands that, like, life is not perfect. There's one character who ended up taking the fall for the execs in his company that he worked in for 20 years on an embezzlement charge and goes to jail for it. And halfway through the season, they come to him and be like, hey, could you also take the fall for this embezzlement charge that's now coming at us now? And yeah, he takes the time to be like, no, I won't do that. And he gets that little moment to straighten his spine, but he's still in prison. And is it ultimately a happy ending? No, but he at least gets to maintain his dignity that he finds over the course of this journey. There's another character who is estranged from his family as a result, or at least from his son as a result of being in prison. His son has refused to ever see him. It's rough. So he finds out that his son is sick and in need of a liver transplant. And he's the only match. So he does it. He, gives his son his liver. He at least gets to see his estranged son. Is their relationship immediately resolved? No, but like it's at least a door that they might get to step through later. The writers took that door away from the one character who happened to be an addict. The one character who happened to be gay. And, it kind of broke my heart because, yes, there are many instances of gay characters being happy and being okay in Korean dramas. There's Sweet Munchies. There's a gay character who, let's be honest, I'm kind of mad with the way that ended, but like he at least ends up okay. In Itaewon Class, there's obviously at this point a very famous depiction of a transgender character who comes out and is able to thrive and live her life. And so, like, obviously there are examples in dramas of gay characters that are able to just live their truth and, be happy. But, like, it just really bothered me that the one character that they decide is not going to get even an inkling of a chance of a happy ending happens to be the gay one. And sure, as a gay person, I might just be reading into it. But, like, when for the entirety of film history, the gay-coded characters are always the villain. They're always the predator. They're always the bad guy in some way. How am I, having grown up with that, how am I supposed to perceive instances of this? So, I just wanted to kind of verbalize that. Like, I spent a solid, 10 minutes, typing out a tweet about that, but, 4 people follow me on Twitter. At least 5 people might see this. And maybe it'll start a discussion, and maybe, one person in South Korea might see this that might use this as their way of saying, yeah, that's not right. And maybe they'll be the next creative. They'll be the one able to make that next show where, sure, not everyone gets a happy ending, but it's not automatically the gay one who gets pushed down. So, I suppose that's really all I had to say. Just wanted to, like I said, just need to get that from in here out there. Like I said, or like I always say, really, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Wear a mask, wash your hands, And for the love of God, take a shower.